everybody, my name is Lindsay Bronner and I'm going to be talking with you today about what I plan on discussing in my end of the semester paper for this class. So one thing that has really stood out to me as we have progressed through the class and we have progressed through the textbook was the textbook chapter speaking about the different dialect varieties within the United States. And the thing that stuck out to me the most about that chapter was the section where it talked about slang. And the reason that it stuck out to me was the fact that I teach middle schoolers, and when they were discussing slang and its usage in society, they concentrated it in the areas of high school and college age students, but they didn't discuss its usage among middle school students. As I prepared to come up with a topic for this paper that, like Dr. Barrett encouraged, contributed to the field of linguistics and wasn't just an echo back here getting lost in the mix, I really started researching slang usage in middle school culture, and there is virtually nothing out there about it that I was able to find. And I scoured the Tarleton databases extensively. So that being said, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looking at slang and focusing on it as a social variety of a dialect, and talking about its push and pull effects on society. How do middle schoolers ages 11 through 14, how do they affect society by using slang, and how does the society within which we live today affect middle schoolers' use of slang? So overall, my topic is going to be evaluating slang's use among the younger teen groups and its importance of understanding why they use it and its impact on our society. I'm also going to be discussing what does this teach us about the younger generation. I'm going to be taking a note from one of the articles that I was able to pull about slang use in teens, and I'm going to be comprising a slang dictionary for middle school students today and analyzing it to slang usage in high school students. And I'm also going to be analyzing the slang's usage in high school, its role in developing relationships in the society both within school and outside of school. And I'm also going to discuss how the different, I have a high transient population at my school. They move quite a bit. I have a high population of students who one or more parents are incarcerated or a family member is incarcerated. So I'm going to be looking at those factors and how they impact slang use as well. Lastly, what I'm going to be discussing is, do older teens being present in the home affect slang's use among younger teens? And does this affect a student's education by using slang? The last thing I want to discuss is the impact of social media on slang's use in the younger ages. So with the voyeuristic society that we're living within today, with social media, YouTube, those platforms, does that affect the use of slang among younger teens? And contrasting it to before, where we only had TV. So the 5 articles that I have found thus far that will be helping me, the first one is D.R. Dean, Slang is Language 2. And I'm going to be discussing this article. I'm going to use this to shape my paper in the first half because Mr. Dean, was a teacher in Palo Alto, California. And this is an older source. It was published in 1962. But what was so interesting is he comprised a slang dictionary for teenagers, and so I am going to be taking a note from his book, and I'm going to be doing the same and comparing it to the kind of evaluating its evolution, slang's evolution, not only as it is used in younger teens, but also the different words that are used. I'm also going to be looking at M.R. Kachiska's article, Subcultures and Their Characteristic Linguistic Properties, talking about each subculture having their own cultural elements of language and how that affects things, since I do have such a high transient population. I'm going to look at Vivek Kulkarni and William Yang Wen's article, Damn Gina, Juvie, and Hotsy Totsy on the linguistic and social aspects of an internet slang, to understand how internet impacts middle school slang, and then how do middle schoolers putting that back out there into the internet, how does that affect the internet and our society? Lastly, I'm going to be looking at 2 articles that discuss age. One article, talks about age-based linguistic variation in American English, and this was by Federica Barbieri. And this one just talks about the linguistic variations of Americans based on their age. She took an in-depth look about how language is split between the language usage is split between the ages of 15 to 25 and 35 to 60, and evaluated the use of over 400,000 words. Lastly, I'm going to be looking at an article by Virginia Tong, Tom McIntyre, and Herman Silman from 1997, and it's talking about an inmate slang usage in correctional education settings. A high number of my students either have one or both parents incarcerated or a family member that has been incarcerated, and so I also want to evaluate as incarceration is something that my school society overall shares as a common denominator, the majority of students share as a common denominator, how does that affect the slang use within middle schoolers on my campus? And then also, does that create its own subculture, tying back to Kachiska's article? So that's what I plan on discussing in my in my paper, and I look forward to reading everyone else's. Thank you.